Welcome back to another episode of the Spa Business Mastery podcast. And I am back again with another episode of Spa Marketing with Delia. And today I have a very special guest. I'd like to introduce you to Drew. Drew is from Search and Social, and Drew and I work together on client projects with, social media management, Facebook and Google ads, SEO. So I wanted to bring Drew. He's got a wealth of information when it comes to marketing. And I wanted to bring him on today because I've been talking a lot about spa websites, specifically, the design aspect of it, how to create compelling content, types of messaging that you should be communicating on your site, et cetera, et cetera. So you likely already have a website, whether you've built a new one, you've revamped it, or you need to revamp it. You likely have a website for your spa business. If you don't, then that would be your first step. But I want to talk to those who do have their website up and running and needing more clients. So I guess the question is, Drew, if you build a website, will they come?
It's a great question. It's a great question. Well, first, thanks for having me here. Happy to be here. Always happy to support and love chatting with you. And I feel like some of our best ideas come through conversation. So
Absolutely.
super happy to be here. Yeah, that's a great question. We get it all the time. If you build it, will they come? Not necessarily. I know you could build something amazing, and if you don't have the right strategy to tell people about it, or to show it off, or to present it, you could basically end up with nobody there. You could be, promoting the world's best event and have the best engagement, the best, presenters, the best dancers, the fire breathers, whatever it is. And if you don't have the right strategy presenting that, people won't show up. Or, if you miss the mark and it doesn't, paint the picture very well, people are going to be like, that's not for me. I'm not into that.
Right.
So not necessarily.
Not necessarily. So even though, because I talk a lot about how to create a visually appealing website and, customer journey and making sure that, it's super easy for them to do business with you. But like I said, how do we get those people to come onto the website when we're trying to build that online presence? And maybe, maybe you are on page one of Google, maybe you're not, maybe you're trying. But there's definitely a strategy that once your website is up and running and ready to show the world, there needs to be some extra steps that take place in order to have that website, in order to show it off, really, right? Like you said.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
can we talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely, yeah. So, I think the first step there is kind of understanding, obviously you've built a website, you kind of understand who you're trying to, speak to through that website, what the visuals are trying to represent, who you're trying to attract, what kind of a user, is most likely going to book in for your services or engage with your brand. So you've done that work, which is great. The next step to that, I think, is really about understanding what a marketing funnel looks like, right? So what a marketing funnel is, and it kind of spreads across all different industries, but for the spa or services type industry, we're predominantly looking for an end goal of a purchase,
Mhm.
meaning buying a product or some sort of routine or multifaceted step product system, or we're looking for a phone call because typically that can lead to a booked appointment, or lastly, we're just looking for a booked appointment right through that website. So if that's the end game, we know that's the end game, and your website has a phone number on it. It's got a form on there for somebody to type in and leave a note, or perhaps you have a calendar linked in there that books that appointment. All of those are great. But how do we get those people there ahead of them? So we have to start looking at different points of conversion. And conversion means when we've got somebody to do what we want them to do, meaning make a phone call, typed in your name into Google, landed on your website is a conversion, right? Followed you on social, that's a conversion. So when we look at that, we want to make sure that we're attracting people at the top end of the funnel, which is sort of that awareness. They don't know who you are yet, but we want them to know. So you got to look at some awareness techniques, and some of those kind of fall into different platforms, which we'll touch on in a minute. The middle of that funnel is once they've heard of you, we want to make them, your number one engaged,
And
customer. They're fun, a fan, exactly. They're willing to refer you. They're willing to tell their friends about you. They're telling all their social circle to book appointments and get this service done with you. And that's done through that engagement piece. So we got that awareness piece is, hey, this is who we are. Now it's like, hey, like come and enjoy us. Like this is what we're all about. And typically, if you can get those first two down, that third piece kind of just is the next natural step. It's that conversion. It's that booking in to come in, enjoy the service, enjoy the experience, and kind of, becoming that loyal customer. So yeah, I think the first step is that marketing funnel.
Is that marketing funnel. So when we talk about the funnel, we talk about, I'm sure lots of people have seen the funnel. It kind of starts off, well, it's this way. It
Yeah.
starts off big. We filter people in through that funnel. Not everybody's going to go through it. So, it's important for us to kind of be doing all these steps within that funnel so that you can get those clients, those visitors on your website turning into actual clients. So as far as awareness goes, Drew, what types of strategies do you have in order to build more awareness to get people noticing you more?
Absolutely. And so this is kind of one of the funnest parts, I think, that for most companies and for most, most service-based businesses, because there's lots of things that you can do that don't cost you anything. It's just paying attention to what those things are. So I guess the best thing that I always try to remind my clients and people that are looking to bring more awareness, especially to a service or a booked appointment and conversion goal, is always be thinking about, I need to fill my funnel. Okay, so that beginning is, like you said, it's kind of a wider net. So we need all kinds of people to come in there so that as they kind of go along the path, they kind of sort of shake out to the bottom to our most ideal customer.
Right.
So things that we can do from across the board is like, just make sure your website is on everything. Make sure your website is visible on, your business cards. Make sure your website is maybe visible in your email when when you've booked an appointment. There's a follow-up email or a URL, or check out our website. Pushing people to that, hey, did you check out our website? Oh, how much does it cost to get such and such service? Oh, it costs this much, but if you're looking for any more information, feel free to call me back or check out the website, right? So always kind of leading people to that site. Any of your marketing materials, if you've got any kind of pamphlets or brochures or anything that's available on hand or in hand, or in person, making sure that's really visible there too. But then I guess when we're getting into the nitty gritty of it, of like an online kind of, okay, we've got a little bit of marketing budget. Looking for some awareness tactics would be things like a display product. A display product is, accessed through Google Display. I'm sure all of us have been retargeted by a display ad before. If I'm speaking totally out of context here, I'll give you a quick, understanding is I'm sure you've looked at, a pair of boots or something like that online before, and then all of a sudden, everywhere you go, you're seeing that same pair of boots, and it's the same exact size and the exact same color, and they're like 10% off if you buy it now, and you're like, oh man, that's so great! I was just looking for those. That is a display ad. They tend to follow you in lots of places. They're really great when we're talking about product, but they work really well on a local, like, you know, 5 kilometer radius from your actual brick and mortar, for a booked appointment type message as well. So they work well there. They're fairly inexpensive and they draw quite a bit of awareness, because you're able to kind of cover a big range of audiences. We probably should have mentioned from the start is, we should make sure that before we do anything is that we have Google Analytics installed on the website. So that should be like a number one thing that we look at, is getting that analytics installed, is going to help you understand kind of what you learn. And one of my favorite sayings is, what you learn about a campaign is just as important as what you gain from a campaign. So yeah, sure, you're getting lots of phone calls, you're getting lots of leads, you're getting lots of appointments booked. That's great. But what you learn from that is like, who are those audiences? What ages are they? What area of the city did they come from? How far away from my location are they coming from? What service specifically are they most interested in? What's their second most interesting service? That data is very, very important to you to becoming a very targeted marketer. And what a lot of business owners don't realize is that that's free data that their website contains. You just have to have a piece of code, meaning Google Analytics, on there to capture it so that you can read it in layman's terms. You're not like reading it in binary, numbers and code and things like that.
Yeah, that can get
So
a little hairy.
yeah, I don't even know how to do that. Going into the engagement piece, I think is always the really fun piece, because now you're having a conversation with somebody that is a little interested. They've either come to the website before, they've decided to follow you on social, they've maybe commented or liked some of your content, so they're kind of like, hey, it's
They're
nice to
warming
meet
up a
you.
little bit, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where we can kind of get a little more fun with it. So social is typically where we'll look at a lot of that engagement, and that's why you hear that word about social all the time. Engagement. What's your engagement rate?
Right.
Is your content engaging? that is exactly where social kind of fits into that funnel. And so understanding from an organic standpoint, your content posts, your content strategy, who are we targeting, using the data that we got from our awareness. Okay, we know that online we kind of scale to more of a different audience. Let's create content that appeals to that
Is
audience.
appeal to them.
Yeah.
What was I just going to say? So when you talk about engagement, you're meaning like if people are commenting, people are liking, you've got new followers, anything that gives them like a reason to take action, essentially, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And sometimes, what's interesting about the marketing funnel is we don't ever know where somebody hears the one pinnacle moment that they're like, I'm going to convert. What makes you decide to book an appointment is going to be very different than what makes me book an appointment,
for sure.
right? So it's important that we kind of understand that there's got to be multiple different opportunities for somebody to take action, whether that's book an appointment, make a phone call, leave a review, share this on your story, save this content for later. Perhaps, you're providing, really helpful content that people can kind of understand, their skin better. And that's just great. But by the time that they get stumped, who are they going to think of? Probably you. Even though you've given them the free advice, they're still going to think that you're the expert because the free advice kind of worked or whatever. So
Well,
saving that content.
and I think it's important that, if we're talking about social here, that we're not just always promoting, right? So you're
That's
always
right.
promoting yourself no matter what, but we're not selling anything.
That's right.
We're selling the education, which is going to get you to that, thinking of, okay, expert level here. These are the people that I want to go see.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. So, and then again, where you're kind of starting to build that community on your social channels is that engagement. And when you kind of start to, prove to people that you know what you're talking about, and you prove and establish yourself as that expert, they're more likely to then click to the website when they really have a need. Oh, I've broken out and I just can't get to the bottom of it. I don't understand. What is this redness? Oh my gosh, I'm so dry. Like I've tried everything, you know. Perhaps they've engaged with you before and they loved what you were doing, but their skin has changed because they've had a kid or they, have had a ton of stress, whatever that looks like. Now they've got a new problem. That's okay. If you've kept them engaged, if you've kept
you're
them engaged the entire time, they're still going to come back to you with that new problem. I think one thing too is the content that you get the most engagement from off of your social. It's really important to reference that on your website. So if you find that there's certain topics or questions that are being asked or answered on social that are getting that engagement, getting those likes, those shares, perhaps you're getting some DMs about it.
right.
Having that information on your website is going to be incredibly helpful because not everybody goes to social to solve their problems. Some people do. Again, solving for different people for different, everybody uses Google differently, everybody uses websites differently, everybody uses social differently. So having the content off of social, putting it on your website, if I'm somebody who goes to Google and is like, how do I fix my skin 101? Or
Yeah.
I have a date tomorrow. I can't have this blemish. How do I get rid of it now? If I am somebody who goes to Google and I find a website that happens to pop up with all of these frequently asked questions that are like really helpful and like it's like, hey, yeah, throw this on it and do this and apply that or whatever, that's great for your website.
So are
Really good.
you, when you're referring to put the information on your website, is this meaning like in your website copy, blogs, all of the above?
You
How?
nailed it. And I think that that's a really cool strategy in and of itself. So it's a way of taking what you're learning and applying it to a different platform in hopes that you have some success there as well. So that can be achieved through content for sure. So once you've kind of used those awareness tactics, and then you've also filtered through the organic data from social media posting, right? So social media posting, you're not paying any money, you're just doing your own free content.
Yeah.
That's the organic side. So once you've got some data between those two things, you can look at your post metrics and go, oh, wow, like a ton of people engage with this. They really like my content around this product or this service. Once you kind of have some of that data, it kind of starts to tell you a little bit of like where your foot in the market is. It's always best to, bet on the lowest hanging fruit, right? So if you've got specific product that you've done or you've featured on an organic post that you weren't selling in, right? We weren't using selling language, but you were talking about the benefits, the products. Maybe it was very seasonal and the timing was just bang on. It was raining that day and you were talking about a specific product that is all about moisture and hydration. If that's the case, you've got some great data. That's a perfect ad set to now build out. Okay, awesome. We know that the people are interested in this. Let's give the people what the people want. So let's build out an ad set around that product and let's ask them to take an action. So if that is booking an appointment, if that is buying a product, if that is, maybe booking in for a consult even, or just to have some questions to see if it's the right fit, whatever that end goal is, aka conversion is,
Mhm.
that's how we can build that ad set. And so absolutely is kind of talking with, somebody who's got some experience in running, social ads. I highly do not recommend building them out and doing them yourself. I have watched so many things fail. It's an easy way to lose your money, and I think a lot of times,
Yeah.
I love social platforms and I love what they do. But in full transparency, they are looking to make money themselves, right? And so the easiest way to do that is to take your ad campaigns and try to keep as much of that budget.
Yeah. And
So using a professional to set that up and weeding off the things that aren't needed and really honing in on the right audiences and looking at the data is going to be very important for the success of
and
that.
being able to read that data and understand what it means. And, I know spa owners, you don't love looking at your own data on your, your CRMs. So maybe
Exactly.
looking at marketing data might not be as exciting to you, but that's, that's where we come in. I do have a question though about that is I see a lot of people, and I've had questions asked about boosting a post. If somebody had a post that was, doing really, really well, what do you say about boosting that post? I know there's different ways to boost.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many ways to give a social platform your money. There really is.
Mhm.
Boosting is one way. Sponsored content is another way. A social ad is another way. But yeah, boosting your posts is great. I think that we typically, when we're running an ad campaign, we actually look at boosting as a part of that campaign, but it's really, really important to understand that they are totally different things.
Yeah.
Um, Boosting is essentially saying, okay, I've gotten a lot of organic traction, meaning you didn't put money behind it. It's kind of, viral is sort of like organic traction, like that just lifted off. It went on its own. People started sharing it, liking it, engaging with it, and it just spread like wildfire. When you have a piece of content that's starting to do really well and kind of getting a lot of engagement or getting a lot of visibility, that's a great piece of content to boost, because what it does is it just kind of pushes it outside of your follower base a little further. It might go a little bit further to friends of friends, but it's still sort of staying within what we call like your network. So every time you post on social, you're only reaching like a very small fraction. I think it's like under 5 to 10% of your actual follower base, which is crazy.
Isn't it?
Um,
They've made
yeah,
it,
so
they've made it difficult to be visible.
they absolutely
Yeah.
have. Yeah. And we're just talking Instagram and Facebook with this one. TikTok has got a completely different algorithm, but we'll save that for another podcast. Yeah. So when you're looking to run a boosted post, what that's allowing you to do is just access a little bit more of that network. So accessing more of your followers, more of your followers, the friends of your followers, and pushing that message out a little bit further so that it has more potential to get visibility, engagement, and whatnot.
I guess, okay, so now we've talked about that piece. What about conversion ads or conversion?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about the good stuff that
That
gets
is
you.
the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the good stuff. I mean, that's the stuff that makes the bank go ka-ching, right? That's the conversion. So, we know that as soon as we've done a lot to get people into our environment or into our ecosystem, which is, in our network, and then we've engaged with them within our network. Now we want them to actually take actions when we prompt them, right? And so there's different ways of doing that. Your website should be set up and built to convert. There's lots of opportunities on there for different conversion points, whether that's a phone call, a booked appointment, a lead form, whatever that might be.
Mhm.
So we want to now drive people to take action on those things on the website. And how we do that is, again, through different channels. One, you can do that through social organic. You
Mhm.
can say, hey, we've got a great blog on the site that talks about, this topic. At the bottom of that blog, it could be like, if you've got more questions around this, this is a pretty hefty thing, and there's, a lot that goes into this. You want to talk to an expert, give us a call or book an appointment, right?
Yeah.
Your blog can do that. Your social or organic post is pushing to that message. And
Mhm.
now they're going to go from social to the blog to your homepage or wherever to book that appointment. Um, Another way that we can look at that is through ads, right? So we can do that through social ads, where it's like, here's a specific product and we're talking about a carousel or whatever, those products can be linked directly to your Shopify, right? So if somebody sees that product ad, it's been targeted to people that have engaged with that product post on social. They've shown engagement on an organic post that didn't have an ad budget behind it. We take that data, we build out an ad that speaks to that product, and we show it to people interested in products like that. They click on that, they go directly to that product on the site. And then we basically optimize, and I'll talk about what that means, towards them adding that to the cart, right? So the longer an ad campaign runs, the more data it also attracts.
Right.
So if you look at data as like a timeline, the awareness is at the beginning of the timeline. The engagement is sort of, again, a little bit at the beginning, but kind of easing this way. Conversion is way over there.
And that's where we want to get. And most of us want to get there pretty quick, right?
That's right. And so there's so many different things that we have to do to understand that. So every time somebody clicks off of something and onto your website, the website captures this data in Google Analytics, like I mentioned before. And it also measures what they're doing. Like, where did they go? What page did they visit on the website? Where did they land? Okay, where did they come from? Oh, you came from aestheticstoday.com. Okay, cool. How'd you get to my site? Awesome. What did you do when you got there? Oh, you looked at this product, you visited this blog, and you added this product to a site or to your cart. Now, that's data that your website's capturing. That's not data that we're looking at. I can't go, oh, Delia came to my website and her phone number is this, and she lives at this address, and she looked at this blog and added this product. It's not that kind of data. It's very minute data that the website can capture, and it kind of creates these buckets of individuals based on action. So if we've got a set of individuals, our first conversion and awareness is just get people to know about us. If they click to the website, great.
Perfect.
We don't really care what happens beyond that. That's an awareness campaign. That's great. The next piece is they're engaging. Okay, they clicked on an ad or clicked on a something that led to the website, and now they're spending 2 to 3 minutes on the website, and they viewed four to five pages on the website. Oh, and they read a blog.
That's
great engagement. Yeah. We'll take that all day long.
Yeah.
The third step is they've seen an ad, they've clicked somewhere else from the web to get to the website, they've added something to the cart. Okay, that's the first part of the conversion piece that we want. We might get 50 people that come to the website. Great, find more people like that. Okay, now we got people who come to the website and add something to the cart. Great, find more people like that. Now we got people who click to the website, spend some time on the site, add things to their cart, and finalize the purchase. Great, go find more people like that. Another way to do that is through Google. So social ads, Google ads, other types of ads online are great, but those two are the easiest and probably the most, successful. Where do you spend the most of your time online? Probably on social and on Google, or at least that's where you start, right?
That's where we start. Yeah.
That's where we start. And so, yeah, I think that, when you've got the right campaigns, you can kind of structure them very similarly on Google ads. We're going to show off these products and then we're going to use these messages. Again, maybe it's seasonal, maybe it's timely, dry skin, check out our blah, blah, blah. And that's a Google ad, right? So people who are typing in dry skin into Google and they're within a certain range, they're going to see that ad from you and click on that. And now they're on your website and into your funnel. And we've just captured their data. So even if they leave, whatever they did on the site, we've measured and we're like, do they fit into this bucket, this bucket, this bucket? We don't do that. Analytics does that. Yeah. But then we can say, okay, go find more people like that, right?
Or retarget them. You can retarget them in different ways, right? We won't get into all that because that gets a little complicated, but I guess one last question I have, especially in the spa industry, we are competing with a lot of people up the street. We probably have, a couple spas around the corner from us, and we're also competing with the big brands, right? The big beauty brands. So how do we as small business owners, brick and mortar with some online e-commerce potentially reach that audience without breaking the bank?
Great question. Yeah, I don't think any of us are ever going to be able to compete with the Sephoras or the Amazon budgets. Those budgets are going to be out of this world.
Right.
But yeah, what we can really hone in on is what's called like localized marketing. And so we can actually set quite a few different parameters around the ad campaigns that we serve. So what happens is, if you've got a budget and you kind of don't put any parameters on it, that budget's going to spread very thin across a huge audience, a huge interest, and a huge geographical location. If we start to narrow things down and say, okay, I only want to target people who are 25 to 45 or 25 to 55 in this radius who have these interests,
Mhm.
we've now weeded a ton of folks out. And so now the budget that we do have can be even more powerful in those areas.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that that wraps us up for today. Thank you so much, Drew, for joining me today. I always love chatting with you. And you've definitely got a lot of info that is very, very useful to our spa owners, because we know that in the spa industry, we need clients and we need to make that money. So if you are struggling with getting people to your website after you followed all my advice on, how to create a compelling website, and you're still having trouble getting people to book appointments, take action on your site, then definitely reach out to us. You can reach out to me, email Delia, Delia, at virtualspabusinessmanagement.com. And Drew and I will help come up with a solid strategy that will help you get more eyeballs on your business. So thanks again, Drew, for talking with me today and sharing all your wealth of knowledge. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This was awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.